Hi everybody, in this video I'm going to show you how I painted my highway barriers. Now there are a couple of first things in this video that I've never done before in a project. For example, oil washes and using fake fur for vegetation. Now before we get started, just a couple more things that I want from you guys. First, subscribe. 2, hit the bell icon. 3, like the video. Thank you very much for watching and welcome to the workshop. We're gonna start by laying down a coat of black primer. Now of course you can use spray paint, but then you have to make sure that the foam board is covered up so you don't melt all your hard work. First base coat is a charcoal color which we are going to apply over everything that is supposed to represent asphalt. So the foam board and all the little rocks around the foam board. And then it's time for the airbrush. I start by laying down a base coat of brown sand, making sure to get all the little rocks and the sides of the foam board to simulate the dust. Second layer is with sand color, and I apply this layer to all the little rocks at the side of the foam board and as a highlighting color for the brown sand. After these first layers of paint, I'm going to put on a first wash on the asphalt, which is a pale grey wash. This step isn't really necessary, but I bought a bottle of the wash a couple of months ago and I wanted to test it out. And then after drying we continue with laying down the base coats. It's time for all the metal parts which we are going to paint in a leadbelcher. So the guardrails, the little pin holders, and the rim of the tire. The barrels are base coated in a cavalry brown, which is actually a deep red color. And then I applied a couple of highlights between the ribs and on top of the barrels, which would catch the most light. The tire got a base coat of heavy charcoal and then a highlight of Luftwaffe grey at the top of the wheel. Now I'm going to apply a sealing layer with gloss varnish. It's important to let this dry thoroughly before you apply the oil washes. After sufficient drying we're going to continue with our washes on the asphalt. The first one is a black oil wash. We're going to apply it in all the little cracks and to the parts of the asphalt that have the most damage. The second oil wash is a Payne's grey, which is a bluish grey color that we are going to apply over all the pieces of asphalt that wasn't shaded in black oil. As a last step for the asphalt, I'm going to apply a highlight with a makeup sponge and a little bit of dust oil. You only need a little bit for this result that you're seeing. To bring out the details in the ground and soil work, we're going to use black oil wash on the little rocks. And we're going to use black oil to weather the barrels and the tire. First you see me applying the wash. Then immediately afterwards with a damp brush, damp with a little bit of turpentine, I remove all the excess wash from the model until I'm satisfied. For a little bit more weathering, I applied a brown oil wash to the bottom of the barrels and to the wheel. For the rust on the barricades, I started with a sepia oil to all the places where natural rust would occur. So around the rivets, at the top of the barricades and the bottom. And then with a damp brush I feather the sepia oil out to the sides. Then I apply a brown wash again to the same places where the sepia was applied, but a little more sparingly, I didn't dilute these oils, I just used them straight out of the bottle. At the back I concentrate the colors around the posts. And then as a last step I mixed some rust pigments with brown oil. I thin it with a little drop of turpentine and apply these especially at the sides where there would be the most damage, and to the top and the bottom of the guardrails. And this is the finished result of the oil washes. Now that the oil painting is done, it's really important to let it dry thoroughly before you apply another coat of varnish. For example, I let these dry for 4 days because I use them straight out of the pot, which means that they take much longer to dry than when you mix them up with a little bit of turpentine. For the utility poles we start with a black primer. First base coat is a dry brush with burnt umber. And then we apply a first highlight with beige brown, again with the dry brushing technique. And a final highlight with buff to bring out all the wonderful woody texture in the dowel. We're gonna paint all the metal parts of the utility poles in leadbelcher. And apply a black wash to bring out some of the detail and the shadows. The final step for these utility poles is a bit of black yarn which I glued on with some super glue. And then for the vegetation I'm going to start by prepping some fake fir. I'm going to dye this with old ivy, which is a full card color. Just spread it on the fir and let it dry. After drying time I used an iron brush to get rid of all the little clumps. For a first layer in the groundwork I'm going to start by applying grass tufts with a little bit of super glue. For the fir tufts I start by grabbing a little bit of the hairs between my fingers. Then I cut it off with the scissors. Get rid of all the little pieces of hair that you won't be needing, and apply the fur to the base with a drop of PVA glue. And then you can model the grass into a shape with a little pin needle. Repeat this process until you're happy with all the tufts. And then we can apply the last layer of vegetation, which are the reeds. I glue these on with a little bit of super glue. Place them wherever you want. And this is the result. Then it's time to cut these to length with the scissors to get a bit of variation as it would occur in nature. And then as a last step I applied a little bit of thinned old ivy to the grass tufts to give a bit of green color so everything blends together nicely. And that's it for this project, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for watching. Please like this video, subscribe, ring the bell icon, you know what to do. And I will see you soon for a next update. Bye.